Hi, everyone. It's always a pleasure to bring someone to the podcast who is a friend. Julie and I met years ago in yoga class, and she's a true soul sister. I think her story needs to be shared with community. Julia, could you please share your experience?
Yes, hello everyone. Hello, my love. First of all, thank you so much for bringing me here. And I gotta be honest, when you asked me to share my story, I was a little bit resistant because, when we go through so much pain, like I did when I went through so much pain, I kind of left it all behind me. And I just wanted to move on. But when you asked me to share this story, I saw it as a sign, an opportunity for me to share it, and hopefully the story can help someone. And also leave it all in 2023 and just move on to the new year's. So, yeah, 3 years ago, I woke up and I felt like something was wrong. I didn't feel good. And like I started experiencing different things, like physically, my body felt funny. First of all, I had to run to the bathroom. Like, I'm going to share all the details, right? We're going all the way into the story.
Yeah.
So I ran to the bathroom and I just had to go pee. And I was just peeing nonstop. And it was kind of strange. So the first thing I thought that it was a urinary tract infection, which is, very common for women. But then it didn't seem like it was the urinary tract infection because I didn't have pain, but I was just peeing nonstop. Like 2-3 liters of liquid was just coming out of me. Yes, and it was very strange because
Were you drinking too much as well?
I wasn't drinking anything at all.
Oh, wow.
And yet I just couldn't leave the bathroom. Yeah, because just the water liquid was coming out of me. And it all was happening during the pandemic. So we just went on a lockdown, and all the doctors, the offices were closed, and I didn't know what to do. So that's how it all started, with just this symptom, right? So I found a doctor online who asked me some questions, and they said that most likely I have a urinary tract infection, and they prescribed antibiotics. And I started taking, but I was like happy, like thank God, at least I'm going to cure this thing. And which is, if it's a urinary tract infection, it's not that serious.
It's not a big deal.
Yeah, it's not, such a big deal. But it was strange to me because I'm very health oriented, I do yoga, like I know how to take care of my body. And the last time I had this disease, let's say, was maybe 10 years ago. So it was a really surprise for me. So anyways, luckily for me, they prescribed antibiotics and I started taking it. But this thing was getting worse and worse. So on the third day, I started experiencing severe pain in my body.
Everywhere?
It started like in my kidneys, which made me think, okay, I have a kidney stone, Then it was like the pain was traveling down my legs, like then my entire body, like muscles were twitching, and like sharp pain, like knife, like someone was sticking knife in my kidneys, and like to the point where I was just like screaming because the pain would come suddenly so sharp, and I would just like sweating and screaming. And then it was getting so much worse that I felt like my body was getting super stiff, that I couldn't even walk. And when I get sick, I think most of people do the same thing, but I'm going to speak for myself. When I get like some kind of strange symptoms, first thing I do, I Google, right? What is like possibly can be wrong with me?
It's the worst thing that you can do because you start to imagine.
Of course, yes. And you can find whatever is wrong with you, like from something like simple to the worst disease, you know?
Yeah, I've done it too many times.
Right? Yeah.
And
Because
your mind going to the worst possibility that can happen actually, because the Google brings you pictures.
yes.
I know that.
Because you want to figure out what is wrong with you and you want to fix it right away,
Yeah.
you know, especially if you're in pain like I was. So I was Googling different symptoms and I was trying to diagnose myself, you know, oh, I have this, I have kidney stone, maybe I have this, the urinary tract infection. Okay, it's not a urinary tract infection. Then it's this, it's that. And then I think it was the fourth day or the fifth day when it got so bad that I just told my partner at the time, my ex-boyfriend, I said, please call 911 because I feel like I am dying, like something is really wrong with me. On top of that, I started experiencing a lot of anxiety. And I know some people, you know, live with anxiety, and like in American society, a lot of people taking a lot of medicine to control this beast, you know. But for me, it was something completely new. I have never experienced anxiety in my life.
Or even for a little bit.
Maybe for a little bit, like when I was a child, you know, but since I've been, you know, teaching yoga and meditating for many years, I've learned how to manage those states. So to me, this level of anxiety was like, it was something completely new. I couldn't control it, I couldn't manage it. It was taking over me. And so I was just getting almost into the panic attacks. And so I told my boyfriend, I said, please call 911 because I feel like something is really wrong with me. I'm dying.
Was it like panic attacks for 1 hour, for a short period of time, or it was?
It was like increasing. It would start like from 5 minutes, then 10, then more and more, you know, and literally like it was taking over me. Even my breath would not help me anymore.
So you couldn't stop it yourself?
I couldn't stop.
Practice didn't help? Like meditations or anything?
A little bit, but again, it was just like so increasing that it was literally taking over me and my mind.
No, I know you, and you're pretty good with meditations, and you can control yourself. So it's probably something really, really big and serious that
Absolutely
could take over, because you're not that person, you know,
yeah,
who you can knock out, you know.
exactly. Actually, it's a good point that you noticed. It's like, once again, I'll repeat myself. You know, I felt like my body was my enemy. Like I was not in control of my body anymore. Like I had a war. I had to go in a war with my body. Like so strange, so weird. And so anyways, I told my partner, I said, please call 911 because this is just unbearable. And at that time I was already in pain. I could not see it because my what I felt is that my nerves were getting inflamed. And of course I started Googling which nerve is this, you know, and I found that there is a nerve that people are not even aware of. It's called pudendal nerve, pudendal neurology, which is very rare and doctors don't even know how to treat it. So that nerve was inflamed. Yeah, pudendal neurology, I know. So anyways, I had that like the whole package of diagnosis by the time we called 911. They couldn't come because of the COVID and all this thing, but
they couldn't come.
Yeah,
What did they say?
I don't know. He was I was just laying in bed like screaming, please, I need help. So anyways, he helped me to get to the car and just took me there, you know. I mean, of course, it was full of people. Imagine COVID, pandemic, like filled with people who are sick with COVID. I'm sitting there trying to sit in pain and shoot in pain, like potential neurology, kidneys, you know, everything. Legs are getting stiff and panic attack on top of everything. And so I waited like for 2 hours in the room, you know, and then they took me in and they were running a bunch of different tests on me. They started with my urine. Then they took a bunch of blood tests,
basic tests
blood
that
work.
they do when you come to emergency.
But I told them, I said, please do everything. Like, let's exclude everything. Like, I told them, I need you to find something, you know, because for me, it was like, I was praying, like, please, God, let them find something, because that would mean that if they find something, they can fix it, or I can fix it, right? I needed the reason, like, what is wrong with me? And I knew something was wrong with me.
And it's worse when you're in completely unknown, you know, when you don't know what's happening to you and your mind go to the all dark possibilities.
Right.
Yeah.
But you know what's interesting? My mind kind of made up top 3 reasons what it could be. And the first one was like kidney stones, like I'm peeing nonstop, the pain in the kidneys, and then some, other reasons. So anyways, 4 hours I spent in that room, different tests. So I requested a CAT scan because I wanted them to see through my entire body, like again, to exclude any, possible cause. And 4 hours later, the doctor and the nurses, they came into the room and they gave me my results and they said, everything is fine. Nothing is wrong with you.
Of course.
And like, just imagine my shock. I am there running to the bathroom every like 30 seconds in pain, can hardly sit, can hardly move. And they come back and they said, nothing is wrong with me. And they said, try to go and see gynecologist. Maybe it's some female reproductive issues, which kind of didn't make any sense. But like, what are you going to do? When the doctor and the nurse, they tell you, in fact, they were looking at me as if I was crazy or making stuff up, like, yeah. So anyways, what are you going to do? Nothing. We just left. And the next day...
Did they give you any prescriptions? Did they tell you what to do like during that anxiety?
No, they didn't give me anything. The only thing they gave me, they didn't give me anything. They suggested me to get some stuff if it's a urinary tract infection without prescription, just some pills. Yeah. Oh, and the only thing they did, the only thing they found, I remember that I was extremely dehydrated. Of course.
Yeah.
I mean, peeing nonstop, like 5 liters,
Obvious.
I was measuring because this is ridiculous. I don't know like where the water was coming
You
from.
didn't have to take all of those tests to find this out,
Yeah, but yeah, that's it pretty much. So they were running the IV to replenish the liquids, and that's it. And they let me go. So the next day, it was Monday, and we found some like clinics, the female reproductive, like gynecologists, that the office, they were open. So I scheduled an appointment and they said, we're busy, but I said, please, like, I need help. And that's another funny, not so funny.
At the moment,
Ridiculously funny story, yeah. So I go to the gynecologist and I'm telling her a story, and the doctor, she doesn't even listen. She already think that she knows what is wrong with me. So I'm giving her extra details, and then she's like, oh no, I know what's wrong with you, this and this and that, without even taking any tests, seeing my results, And then this whole industry, she requests unnecessary test. And I was explaining to her that I've spent 4 hours at the emergency room. I've done all this tests. Please take a look. But that's how the business works. No money, no honey, right? So another same test. I said, I don't have a urinary tract infection. She said, we have to do it. We have to run the test. Hundreds of dollars, the bills, And at the end, I was left with the same news. Everything's fine, Nothing is wrong with me, with you. So I scratched that out of my list, okay, it's not a kidney stone, CAT scan didn't show anything, right? It's not like female reproductive issues, everything is fine with my uterus, with my ovaries. Like, what are we gonna do next? The next thing I went on my own research is probably something is wrong with my spine. Maybe, I don't know, I was doing yoga and I damaged my spine. So I was, trying to find some chiropractic who were open. And I found some guy and he said, I know what is wrong with you, He's like, yeah, we just need to, adjust your body. Like one leg is a little bit shorter. He did some adjustment, nothing. So the worst thing was that it was in the middle of pandemic, but it was also right before me and my partner are going to take a long flight to Europe. And we couldn't cancel that flight because we were moving to Europe for my ex's new job. And I didn't know how I was going to do it because I was getting worse and worse and worse, especially pain. So I could not sleep. I could not see it because the shooting pain from all the nerves, the entire system was getting inflamed. So I just didn't know what to do. So I found some specialist online who kind of knew about pudendal neurology, and online session, another whatever, $300 just to for them to tell me, like, try to stretch and breathe. Yes. So at that point,
And everything fine with you, just the stretching, and everything gonna go away.
yeah. But at that point, I was getting into like really dark place, because first of all, I felt like I was getting like, how do you call this? Like when people are handicapped, like disabled, because like I'm going pee non-stop. How I'm gonna take the plane? Imagine how uncomfortable it is. And I'm like thinking all these thoughts, how I'm gonna do it. I cannot sit on the plane. I'm in a severe pain. I can hardly like kind of lie down. So all these thoughts were running through my head. No doctors, no help. Like what do I do? And yeah, it was getting really dark. And one
I'm
night,
sorry.
right before the flight, something really weird and like really weird happened to me. So we had a flight in the morning, and my partner wasn't home. He went, I don't know, he went to a goodbye dinner with his family, and I stayed alone in a hotel room. And I was just laying in bed, just feeling really bad. Like all these thoughts were running through my head, and the pain. And I was like, how I'm gonna do it tomorrow? I was really like worried and nervous, and also feeling ashamed, ashamed that I'm in this condition, and I couldn't believe that it's happening to me, like, yeah, I was definitely in a victim mentality. Like I got really deep into this victim mentality, like, how, like, why is it happening to me, like, I'm a good person, I'm healthy, I'm yoga teacher, I meditate, like, what the hell, what is wrong? And then like really ashamed and embarrassed, like, I'm a handicap, I might need a wheelchair assistance. And the boyfriend, my ex, was calling all the airports to ask, like, how can he assist me, because I couldn't walk, just like very, very slow.
You mentioned you were paralyzed for some time.
The legs were getting paralyzed. Yes, they were getting stiff completely. I could not bend my legs.
How long did you have that condition?
For 9 months.
So for 9
But it was getting worse and worse. It started from,
Yeah.
like I told at the beginning, right? It was getting worse and worse and worse and worse. Like the body was getting paralyzed, like slowly but surely,
So by the time when you supposed to fly there, you already barely could walk.
Yes, like half of my body was almost paralyzed. I could just, like straight legs. I could move them very, very slow.
Wow.
And like I could not sit, like I would have to use my hand just to kind of drop myself.
And you were a super healthy person.
To the bed. Yeah.
I remember because we met earlier.
Yeah. So yeah, at that point I could, I could hardly move. I could stand, I could not sit, and I could lie down in bed.
And you have to fly.
And I had to fly. And just thought of that was overwhelming. Just like, yeah. Anyway, so I was alone in the house, and my ex was having dinner with his family, when I experienced something really weird. I heard a voice, okay, in my head. And the voice clearly told me, like, go to the bathroom and kill yourself. Just finish it.
Was it your voice or it was?
No, it wasn't my voice. It was like the voice from the complete darkness. And, for maybe like for some people who are going through the dark times in their life and experience some depression, maybe they used to, that kind of things, and they're like fighting with this. For me, it it came out of nowhere unexpectedly, just like clear voice from the dark place. Just go to the bathroom and finish it. And it was so strong that it almost took over me. Like in that very split second, like I was ready to do this. Like,
what did you stop at this moment?
I'll tell you what stopped me. I realized in that moment, thank God, my awareness was present. I realized that it's not me, it's not my voice. And the only thing that I could do in that moment is just start praying. So I felt like this thing was taking over me. So I just started reciting Father in Heaven. And it stopped, it literally saved me. The prayer saved me because otherwise I don't know what would have happened. So the next day, I was actually praying all night for the flight to be comfortable for me. And sure enough, it was comfortable. Like there were no people sitting with us. It was available. So I was laying down and I managed, to do it. And we got to Ireland and they were also closed down in the middle of pandemic. No doctors, nothing is available. And I was
the best time.
I kept Googling,
to get sick.
Yeah, exactly. I kept Googling. So the more I kept researching what was wrong with me, the more I was going down into that rabbit hole.
Yeah, because unknown, obviously, and all assumptions and
yes, and like I was focusing on the illness, on the sickness, instead of try to focus on healing myself. Like I was so stuck in this, I'm sick, something is extremely wrong with me, I need to find a solution. And I was getting worse and worse and worse because at that time I started to blaming my partner,
How was your relationship at that time? Was he supportive and did you feel that support from him?
I mean, he was a little supportive at the beginning, but then I think it was, getting too much for him because at some point I started blaming him for everything that was happening to me. And yeah, yeah, it's an interesting situation. So yeah, at that point, I started thinking that all the issues that we had in relationships kind of caused me to get sick. And of course, instead of taking responsibility for my illness, I was blaming my partner.
It's because it's easiest.
It's
at the
easiest,
moment.
and yeah, and I mean, I'm not saying now, like, I'm not playing roles who's right, who's wrong. Maybe he did do some things, that caused the reaction in me, but I was responsible for my reaction, right? And my reactions weren't the best because I would get angry and I would experience like a lot of pain, and pain will go into the hater towards my partner. So I was just like cooking in this dark place, sick, emotionally, mentally fighting with my partner because he wasn't supporting me enough. And I remember there was like a point of no return when I was in extreme pain, just like sobbing on the floor, and he walked by me, just passed by, and he said, "Don't be a fucking victim." And it's just like the light bulb went on. I was like, I need to do something, because I'm gonna die here. And then also I started noticing that there were days when I would start feeling a little better. And my symptoms would get a little bit like more mild, And in those days, I was just breathing and trying to stretch because, mind you, is that I could not even see it. Like my best thing, my yoga was taken away from me. Like what used to help me, kept me alive. I could not sit, I could not stretch. The only thing I could do is breathe. You breathe, you don't need to be in any position. So those days when I was breathing and calming myself down, my nervous system down, I started noticing that my symptoms would get better. But then I would get into another argument or fight with my boyfriend, and then it would increase again. So that made me think, like, what am I doing like wrong, or how can I change it, right? How can I take responsibility for how I feel? And when I hit that place of no return, when he said, don't be an effing victim, I am like, yeah, I need to get out. It's like it was like a wake up call. And so I thought to myself, so maybe I got myself to this state, with the way I was thinking, like all the emotions that I was experiencing during our fights. Like when we would fight, I would feel like angry and I would project it at him. So maybe that anger was firing back at me, I started thinking. So I kept Googling and doing some research. And I found an amazing, amazing video. It's completely free. It's on YouTube. And that video was the beginning of my healing journey. That video helped me to change my mindset. And, at that time, I think the most difficult part for me was that I was completely alone and disconnected from my environment. So there were no friends. I'm a completely new country, no people that I know, no family. I left all the social media. I left my Instagram, my YouTube. Nobody knew what was going on with me because I'm the person, like, I am used to dealing with my own shit by myself, I am not the person who, show this weak side of myself, and I couldn't ask for help. And I'm not saying that that's how things needs to be done. I think we actually need to reach out to people and ask for help and support, because luckily I had the strength to go through this alone. But yeah, it wasn't like the best choice, So yeah, I was going all alone through this thing. And when I found this video on YouTube, I felt like something was changing and shifting within me. So the video called 300 Rapid Health Affirmations. God bless this person who created like millions of views on YouTube, 1 hour recording, and you can just play it on the background, or just repeat it or listen to quietly. And I started from that recording by listening to that recording, repeating and talking to my body. Unbelievable. Like it was making a difference, not only in how I felt, but how I started thinking. I started recognizing that, oh, my thoughts are not so positive. Why I am giving so much energy to this disease? Why am I fighting with this disease instead of switching my focus and like start feeding the healthy me, the radiant me? And it's like there is a saying, what we resist persist, right?
Yes.
Like if you think you're sick, and you keep saying to yourself, I'm sick, I don't feel good, that's what is going to keep on happening, And it's so difficult. The most difficult thing is to change your mindset in that moment, because it's hard to believe that things can be different when you like paralyzed, when you're in pain, when your body is giving up on you. It's like you want to go into that dark rabbit hole. You want to feel bad almost. Like you want to feel this sympathy. In my case, it was just my partner, like you want to feel compassion from others and, all these things. And so the most difficult thing was to change my mindset and allow myself to think differently, But once that switch is like, you flip the switch, you make just one little step towards a possibility. Just like you allow yourself to think, I am healthy. I love my body. I love myself. Then, you start changing your neurons, right? New patterns. You create new patterns in your mind. And then it becomes easier and easier and easier. So I started from that recording. That was how I started. Then the next thing, my body started feeling a little bit better. I started doing the stretches and breathing. But I would get better and better and better, and then I would get into another fight with my partner, and all the symptom would just come back. So I started realizing that it wasn't healthy for me. I need to do something. I need to change something in my environment, in how I feel, how I react. And if I cannot, manage my reaction at the moment, then the best thing for me to do was to leave this relationship. And that's what I did. And since then, it took me almost 2 years to get back to normal, to 100%. It wasn't an easy route, and I kept going. Like, it was a long process to completely cure myself, to be able to sit, to do my yoga, to do whatever I want, really. And yeah, so
So, what tools did you use for self healing?
the main tool that I use, besides the 300 rapid affirmations, health affirmations on YouTube, stretches, and breath work, but behind it all was the mindset. So I kind of looked at myself, at my old version of myself, how I used to think, even though I thought that I was a super positive person, very aware, very conscious, but I realized that some things I was still doing, right? Like unconsciously, like in my relationships. And I realized that all those, like I said earlier, all those negative reactions towards, my partners, towards the issues, they were causing me to feel bad. It's like it was all backfiring at me. And my body was like going on the war against me. I still don't know what the cause was, the main reason, but I think it's all started from little things. I planted the seed, a little bit of here, a little bit of reaction, a little bit of negative emotion, a little bit of blaming. And then I was completely in a victim mentality, It's all your fault. Again, doesn't matter what he was doing. What the matter is how I was reacting, So I was able to see that I took the responsibility, and I was able to see how I, Julia, got myself into that state. Nobody outside of myself didn't have a control, but me. So when I realized that if I could make myself sick, that means that I can make myself healthy again. And that's when I started working towards my healing. So it wasn't easy, okay? Because again, I wasn't feeling 100%, 2 years. Just imagine, 200% exactly took me 2 years. I was getting better and better slowly. I started working with psychologist who was dealing with emotionally abusive relationships. That was really helping me to realize a lot of things that, okay, they were not right from my partner as well, but, my reactions also. And then okay, it wasn't easy because since I've been sick for such a long time, some of my friends who I then shared with my situation, they would call me or check on me, they would text me. That was after I came back to Los Angeles already and I left my relationships. They would ask me, how are you doing? And the first initial reaction, I wanted to tell them, like, not so good, I'm still in pain, right? But I knew that if I keep on confirming and saying that I'm not good, I'm in pain, that's what I would keep manifesting, bringing. And so the most difficult part for me was just to change that direction and just say, I am better, even though I didn't feel better at the moment. But I knew that I had to do that in order for me to get better. So that's like, you have to become you have to become the master of your own mind. So your mind is not controlling you anymore, but you take over the mind. So I would start with these little things. Instead of saying, I'm still bad, I'm still in pain, I would say, with like teeth, like, I am better. And then I'm like, wow, I'm really getting better, So, yeah, the most powerful thing and tool that I was doing is just working with my mind, thinking and visualizing how I'm getting better, how I'm feeling better. And again, yes, it wasn't easy because you don't see the immediate result right away. Sometimes you get worse again. But then you can actually trace your thought pattern and what made you sick again. And sure enough, I would get into a victim mentality, or I would go in the past, reliving the same story, reliving the sickness, my relationships with the boyfriend. And in those moments, of course, my body would go back into the old condition. Too much vibrationally, those thoughts. And I'm like, okay, so it's working. Even if it's a negative reaction, I see it's working. So let's switch it to the positive. So I started working towards this positive, way of thinking and healing. And I remember I was sharing my journey with some of the friends who were really sick. And you know what I realized? That we all have choice, and some people just choose to be sick. I gotta tell, I have the right to say it because I've been there. Some people it's just comfortable, even though it's uncomfortable, it's very painful, but they find the comfort, in being sick. And a lot of, we say it like secondary benefits.
Yeah.
Sympathy, compassion. Some people, they don't have to go to work, their parents are taking care of them. And whatever, everyone has their own story, a program. And I was trying to tell my friends that you are not sick. Stop saying that you are sick, because you keep on repeating that you are sick. So sure, you create your own reality. You are sick because you keep saying you're sick. But they wouldn't listen because, yeah, I get it. Physically, they do feel sick.
It's hard when your body, when everything tells you, the opposite. It's really hard to say, no, it's not.
So yeah, I get it. It's not easy, but again, it's the choice that the person who is feeling sick need to make for themselves.
Yeah.
Either they're going down the rabbit hole and they keep on feeding the illness, keep saying that I'm sick, I'm not good, or they flip the switch, and they start working towards the healing, focusing on healing and changing the mindset. I think Joe Dispenza and his work, what he's doing is like it perfectly explains how it works and how our thoughts cause us to get sick and produce different chemicals in our bodies. And yeah, like anyone can Google his work and do free meditations on YouTube or join his course or program. That's exactly what I was doing intuitively to heal myself without, knowing about Joe Dispenza work, which is interesting. So, yes.
Oh. Yeah, I know someone, I think she had, how does it call it, inhalation? Asthma? Inhalation?
Asthma.
Asthma.
Yes.
Yes. So she had second stage, which is like really, she was handicapped basically for half of her life.
Disabled.
And she's teaching now holotropic breathing. That's how I know her. I met her through holotropic breathing. So, and she was stage 2. And when she started to do holotropic breathing, during the practice, it came to her that she's sick because she wanted attention from her parents.
Wow.
And first time she didn't believe it. Then 2 or 3 times again it came. And she decided she wants to fix it. So she worked on it. She found the other way to get love and feel she's loved. And she was able to work it through. And that stage 2 went away completely.
Wow.
I think she's doing the holotropic breathing right now, helping other people. It was a method that helped her. So, and I believe when you're in that state, it's hard to first recognize, but then if you see the sickness is there, I didn't have it, but I believe that to help you to see, your reactions, and
also what's possible.
What's possible? Yes. What's possible?
Agree.
And if you find, that energy in yourself, and you can go inward and you can find that source as you did, right? So you could
Absolutely.
cure it.
Yes.
And you could find the other way to get love and care from other people.
Yes.
But it's really hard to recognize it first because it's like a pattern in the brain that you don't see.
Yeah, because you're used to thinking like I'm sick, I'm bad, I'm bad, and like how can you start thinking I'm healthy if you don't feel healthy?
Yes.
And Joe Dispenza talks about it, right? Like you need to become the new version of yourself. Meaning start thinking differently, start experiencing different emotions, change your environment if you have to. I had to change my environment because the relationships were toxic. Like I could not possibly get healthy if the environment is toxic, no matter how hard I would have worked on myself. And I was getting a little bit better, right? But then it's the same environment. Like he would come home from work and we would, have an agreement and boom, I would get sick again. So I had to leave that environment in order for me to become the new version of myself, to think differently, to feel different emotions, and then to heal. So the sickness, can only live in the old version. Like a perfect example, this miraculous healing that happened to so many people, like let's say a last stage terminal illness, like a cancer, right? The person goes to the doctor, they tell them you have 2 months to live, and they're like, fuck it, I'm gonna do whatever I want. And they become somebody new, completely new. They go out, they change their, the way they dress, they finally do things that they never did. Like they go on stage, they start singing or dancing. They go travel to see the ocean somewhere. And 2 months later, they come back and, and the doctor, like, wow, what a miracle. You don't have a tumor anymore. Why? Because they're not the old version. Different thoughts, different actions, different emotions, right? It's true. That's how it works. And, I have a friend, actually, unbelievable story he told me. And it also kind of helped me when he shared his story. It was hard for me to believe, but he gave me hope. Like he planted the seed of hope in me. And I think that's what helped me. So my friend he's an epilepsy. So I think everybody knows what this thing is. It's uncontrollable disease that can hit you anywhere. You basically lose your consciousness and, you're like, your body is like in a convulsion. So like, with all the foam, it's like you can die because your tongue, because you can control your yell like your tongue or like crazy things are happening. So he's been living with this disease since he was 14 years old. And he said at some point he got so tired to be afraid to live life because this could happen to him anywhere. Like he couldn't go, he couldn't have a relationship, he couldn't get a normal job. He was afraid to go just to a coffee shop to get a coffee because he never knew when this going to hit him. And like it can happen on the street. You can drop dead, like like you can get into the car accident driving. So what he did, he healed himself completely. He cured himself. And I said, how did you do it? Did you go to the doctor? He said, no, Julia, what I did is very difficult to do, but it's possible. I said, so tell me, what did you do? He said, I told to myself that if I'm gonna die, I don't care anymore, but I'm gonna live to the fullest. And he said, the next day, I went out and I started doing things that I've never done in my life without being afraid. He said, if it's my time to go, if I'm meant to die right here, right now, but I know at least I've been living the life. And he said it takes a lot of courage because it's basically facing the death, accepting it that, okay, there is a possibility I might drive and this thing is going to hit me and I might get paralyzed and I'm going to get in an accident and I'm okay with that. He said it's not an easy to do and not everybody can do it, but that's what I did, he said. It's been more than 10 years. He's been completely healthy. So what does this story tell us? What does it teach us? What did he do? He became a complete different person, a new version of himself.
And made a decision and changed the mindset. Yes.
Made a decision,
And changed the story.
mindset, and changed the story. There is a beautiful movie now that I remember. I would love to recommend people, especially for women. It's called The Guitar. Beautiful story of a woman who was terminally ill, and how this story unfolds. It's beautiful.
I didn't see it actually. I wanna.
It's a beautiful movie.
I'd love to.
Yes, very inspiring and motivating, which explains everything that we have been talking about.
Oh.
So, yes, anything is possible and everything is possible, but you gotta believe it. First, you have to make a change within yourself. You have to allow yourself to believe that it's possible. Otherwise,
give yourself
if you're going to test it out, it's not going to work. Let me test the universe, let me test God, let me do this positive affirmation, or let me, try to do this and that. It's not going to work because you're not fully surrendered to this. You're still testing, you have to believe, your belief needs to be so strong, even though if you don't see the proof right away, it's gonna come later.
Yeah, blind trust, I would say.
Blind faith, blind trust, and just keep on going, changing the new patterns, becoming the new version of yourself.
Yeah.
Whenever you wanna say, "Oh, I feel bad," don't say it. Wake up in the morning. That's what I used to do. I would wake up in pain and all these things, but I would say to myself, "Today is a beautiful day, and I'm gonna feel amazing." That's how it works. It's like self-programming. It works. It really does.
How does it feel to have medical science give you no answers when in such pain?
I mean, honestly, I haven't been to the doctor's office until, this hit me for many years. Again, I was completely healthy. I am not the person who, uses the help of the doctor, because I truly believe that we are our own doctors. We can be better. Of course, if the doctors are really professional and they look at the entire body, which are not so many doctors are like that. They look at one thing and they don't see the entire thing. What's happening to you? How do you feel? What is your relationship with the partner? What's your emotional state? Nobody is looking at it. They look at one thing, Oh, your leg hurts. Let me look at your leg, But maybe you're thinking some thoughts that causing you to feel pain in your legs. They're not looking at it. So how did it feel? I wasn't surprised. Whatever, I'm gonna find my own cure with God's help, with universe's help. I'm gonna I trust myself more than I would trust. Unfortunately, that was my experience. I'm sure there are doctors and people who really care about people, and they study, and they have more open mind, But also I've noticed a lot of ego from doctors. They didn't like the fact that I knew and I had more information about myself, my symptoms, and my disease than they did. A lot of ego was involved. What do you know? We're doctors. We
know
have a
better.
degree. Yeah. And I'm like, no, I feel my body. I know what my body needs,
So was it hard to not be cynical? And what did your inner dialogue sound like?
Was it hard not to be cynical? Well, yes, because in that state, when you feel so bad, all you need is help, some solution. And when you go to one doctor and spend hundreds of dollars, and they said, "We don't know what's wrong with you," you go to another doctor and they said, "Oh, I know what's wrong with you," but that's not the case. And then you go to other, it's like the never-ending loop. At the end, you're like, I feel like I've been taken advantage, by the system, by the doctors. And okay, if you help me, tell me what's wrong with me, at least tell me what to do. But I wasn't given any answers. But the certainty which some doctors would greet me and without even looking at me or listening to me, that was wow, shocking, without knowing my symptoms really.
Not seeing the path clearly, taking the steps outside the accepted norm is courageous. what do you think are the small steps that others can take to go there boldly?
Well, I think I will repeat myself again. I think it's just making that choice that
Okay.
I am gonna be healthy. Not that I'm gonna be healthy, just declare it. I am healthy. That's it. I am healthy. I am healthy. Even if you don't believe it at the beginning, you're gonna build this new neuron path, new way of thinking. That's like the main step, without going back, without supporting the idea that something is wrong something is wrong with you, without giving excuses. Yes, but you don't know how I feel. Yeah, but I've heard that excuses from people. I was there myself. No excuses. No need to look at your symptoms, what you're feeling. That's an old version of yourself. Let that go. Just declare it. I am healthy, and keep moving forward, step by step by step by step, to the new version of yourself.
Yeah, thank you so much for repeating, because I wanted kind of point that to make sure. I think it's one of the main points of our podcast today. So
The choice.
the choice.
Everything in life is a choice. Everything in life is a choice. So the person needs to become an adult, needs to take responsibility even for this disease. I know some people might listening to it and might thinking, or saying like, yeah, but I didn't do it, I didn't do anything, like I didn't call on having cancer, I didn't do, look within yourself. You'll find an answer. If you're completely honest with yourself, like I was, I saw exactly how I caused it to myself. And at the end, I've realized that this disease was a blessing in disguise for me. Like, it wasn't a curse. It was a blessing for me. First of all, to leave these toxic relationships. Second of all, to realize through this disease, through me getting healthy, that, wow, if I can get healthy, if I can manifest, to feel good, that means that I can manifest anything I want in my life. Good relationships, success, wealth, money, whatever you want, what your heart desires. So sure, it was a blessing in disguise.
Well, thank you for reading this, because I think it's really important to hear for people who's going through the same thing, so they could see there is light in the end of the tunnel.
Absolutely.
And it's your choice.
Yes,
so
a choice.
that's like really, really beautiful, and I think people needs to hear it. Julia, what do you think? How they can look inward when the whole world tells them not to?
Yeah, that's a tough one. That's a really tough one. Again, small steps, and you need to kind of turn down the voice from outside if you want to get healthy. Again, the choice. Do you want to die, or do you want to live? Like, in that state when you feel bad, sometimes you think like, I just want to die, because you don't want to live in this condition. But trying to get into this like state, like how you would feel when you are healthy. So disconnecting from the outside world, especially if they're not supportive, if they're not open-minded people, and honestly, not even listening to that much advice from others, because we each have our own unique path. And what worked for me, my tools, whatever I was doing, might not work for somebody else. But the core idea is the same, making the choice, right? I want to be healthy. And then just see what signs, signals the universe sends. Maybe it's a book that you need to read, maybe some video will pop up on YouTube. I started looking for health affirmations. I needed it because my mind was going through such negative programs and patterns, So find it within yourself, within yourself. Try to go into the silent meditation. It's also a good one. Breathe. We have this powerful tool that is free, our breath, which is what? Which is life force, right? If we don't breathe, how long can we live? like 1-2 minutes. Some people cannot even do that, if they're not practicing enough, if their lung capacity is not good enough. So just breathe. Use this life force of God energy, the universe energy. Breathe, close your eyes, think, ask, and you shall receive. Ask for the answers if you don't know it. Feel it, trust, and just know and remember that you're never alone. You're never alone. There's always support. Whatever you believe in, angels, the universe, God, I don't know, aliens, it can be anything. Whatever you believe, your higher self is there to guide and to support. You don't have to do it alone. And like again, I was praying, I started praying because I needed help of some divine force, divine power.
Mm. So can they reach out to you if they need, want to ask you something?
Yes, sure, absolutely.
So I'll leave you information.
Yes.
In case if someone going through the similar thing and
in fact, I think I just posted a few last year, a practice, my first practice. Thank you for reminding me in my English channel, Kundalini yoga for balancing nervous system. And that was the first practice I was able to do in a year when I was able to sit and move. That's the first practice I started doing in what helped me to balance my nervous system and heal myself. And I wanted to, give it back to society and share it with people. So I've recorded 2 versions. One was in Russian for Russian YouTube channel, and one is in English, and I upload it to my English YouTube channel. So people can come. It's a very simple practice, only 25 minutes. Anyone can do it. You don't need to be advanced yogi. You just sit and do certain exercises with your hands and breath work. And very powerful practice.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for your kindness.
Absolutely.
Because as you mentioned earlier, that practice that changed your life, right? We don't know, maybe this Kundalini yoga exercise could help someone.
Absolutely.
And this podcast could help someone as well by seeing your story. And that's why I'm doing it, because I believe some people need to see those stories, what's possible. So then they have an option what they want to do with their life.
I just want to add something is that I didn't share this story with too many people. When you go through something like that, plus it took me 2 years to really get on top of my game, right? And when people looking at me right now, it's hard to believe for them that when I say I was paralyzed, they're like, when? There was a time, it's all true. I was going through that. And yes, I wasn't sharing at the moment. I just couldn't. So it's hard for them to believe, seeing me this radiant, and happy. But that was me with that voice at one point that told me to go and kill myself, with legs that couldn't move, with the pain. I think at some point I was actually having, again, self-diagnosis. I think what was happening is I was getting multiple sclerosis, MC, because I could not control my body, right? So that's just like shows you how this thinking and anxiety and all this overwhelming emotion can cause your body to turn against you. Like my body was matching my thoughts and my feelings. So again, we can reverse it. We can reverse it and we can heal ourselves. And we have all the beautiful tools and people and coaches and free, beautiful information. And once again, I want to just say that, guys, please listen to this 300 rapid health affirmations. I left him a bunch of comments. I'm going to cry now. Because literally that was the first thing what started. Like I don't know what I would have done without those health affirmations. That person is amazing who created this whole video with beautiful voice and the music. Hundreds of hearts and hundreds of likes and messages was from me. Yeah. Just Google 300 rapid health affirmations.
Yeah, we're gonna add it. And if you have something else you wanna add, so we're just gonna add it in description.
Yes.
And people could access it.
Sure.
And we want to give credit to people who really help,
Absolutely, yes.
And can you imagine to do that small thing, to give the practice that you believe works for you could change people's lives.
Totally, yes.
And that person probably doesn't even know that.
Maybe, but I was making
Or
sure to
hopefully-
leave a comment,
hopefully.
not even for that person, but for other people
Yeah.
to see, which made me think I'm going to log in again because now it's been even more.
Yeah.
Now it's been a year and I didn't update. I just want to tell people that it worked and it works, you know.
That's amazing.
Yes.
Yes.
And thank you for much for inviting me, you know, and I feel like really I needed to share that story. Not even maybe my story, but the fact that that information on YouTube, that tape, you know, was able to help me. So,
But no, for me, your story is really inspiring because I knew you before sickness.
yes,
And then when I met you like 3 or 4 years ago, when you told me that story, and I couldn't believe because you were healed completely at the time.
yeah.
So it was hard for me to imagine, but I believe there are people who needs to hear that and who.
You're right. You know, I feel like sometimes in life, we as humans, we are devalue our own experiences. That's me. Like, okay, no biggie, you know, I did it. Like, let's move on. But there is so much in that experience that we don't even know how can help others and affect others in a good, positive way. I know that, you know, I know that.
That's why I felt it's really important to share that story because I know I choose stories like
Wisely.
really wisely
Yes.
and yeah, I think it's really unique story and thank you for sharing your
Well,
incredible
thank you for being the
story.
channel and trusting yourself to share that experience with others and information that comes through you and through me and to all of the people who are watching us because we're all one anyways.
Yeah.
Universal consciousness in many different bodies, but we're all one to share our experience and help to each other. Otherwise, what's the point of living?
Yes.
We're here to share. To love.
Yay.
Yes.
I believe so many people could benefit from your experience. And if you're watching this video, please share and like it so a lot of people can benefit from that video as well.